So I was watching this video about Palestinians from a French YouTuber called Antoine Goya. And a segment of this video, even though I've probably seen this video two or three times or maybe four times, kind of struck me down as some sort of divine light or genius. Well, maybe I'm exaggerating, but basically, he was quoting very famous persona in cinema, Antoine Godard, which was saying something across the lines. euh, Je n'aime pas que les sans-abri disent qu'ils ont le droit de manger. Ils devraient dire qu'ils ont le devoir de manger et non pas le droit. And so, if I had to translate this quote from Antoine Godard, it basically meant I don't like when someone who has nothing to eat, no home, that's in the streets basically, says to me, well, I have the right to eat. I should be able to eat. I have the right to eat. And he says then, someone needs to eat, so he should say, I have a duty to eat. And this opposition between right and right being most notably known as, like, you know, the law or prescribed freedoms accorded to people, but they're most likely norms or normalized, and they're always according to a society's standards. So a right, or the right, should I say, is always changing, evolving. It can be suppressed, it can be given, it can be reformed, modified, right? That's a funny joke. So there seems to be a natural opposition between duty and right. Also because in the first sense, kinda, people oppose them, but for more intuitive reasons, as in, like, let's say you're working your 9 to 5, you're earning your hard earned bucks for, like, the work you do, whatever. So supposedly you work and you gain capital, so you gain liberties, you gain rights to, like, rights to having stuff, rights to consumerism. You being in certain countries or states also supposes you have a right to properties, you have a right to healthcare and stuff like that. But duty, in the contrary, is seen in another light. Duty is seen as something like you have to do according to an engagement or according to some sort of natural laws or some sort of societal laws. Because if you're a citizen, if you're born somewhere, you have duties. You might not know about them, but you have duties. Like, for example, in Belgium, here it is a duty to vote, but it's also a duty in some way to, like, be civilized, to participate in the civilized world. Whether it is in Belgium or you're going in other countries, you have to respect certain things, so it's duties. And it's also laws. Duty, in the most common sense, is also really understood well if you speak about an engagement. So, this job you have, well, yeah, you gain rights and you gain, like, sort of capitalistic freedom, but you also have duties. You need to you need to do certain things. You need to come at a certain hour, then leave at a certain hour. Sometimes there are contracts which forbid you from doing certain things. You have to respect this, this, and that, and that. So you have duties. But the word duties, or perhaps in what Antoine Godard was trying to say, and also Simone Weil, which is a feminist Christian author, has another meaning, perhaps a more pure, a more essential, and a more humanist meaning. Duty is seen as something that in the human world, or let's say in the human society or whatever you want to call it, a duty is something that needs to be attributed unconditionally to a human being, to the individual and to the collective as well. Humans have a duty to healthcare. Humans have a duty to lodging, having a lodgement. Humans have a duty to eat, being well fed. Humans have a duty to security. So, in this kind of almost, like sacred, a bit brute way, what Simone Weil and probably Antoine Goyard were trying to say is that it is an imperative. It is a moral duty to make sure everyone have at least the most basic criterion, basic necessities to live in the physical way, and I guess you could also or make some arguments in the psychological way. Humans should not have rights that are given then taken back or that can like change and stuff like that. Humans should have duty. Perhaps if we started to see these rights as duties, it would be a step further into humanism. But trust me when I say I'm talking about duties in the strictest humanitarian sense and not some sort of trap, as in like, oh yeah, okay, you have duties to be fed, etc., etc., but you also have a duty to like, participate in the nation and stuff like that. I'm talking about pure like human solidarity, and maybe, just maybe, even though perhaps it might seem extreme to some people, maybe society would change for the better if we saw people that weren't able to eat and we almost automatically give them food, or at least the means to get means so that they can eat. Um, so yeah, I guess in this sort of like Christian sense as well, if we take this if we take this at face value, some people really are not innocent because we're all sort of in this matrix where we believe that some people just have whatever poverty or whatever catastrophe coming to them because they didn't do enough things, they didn't work enough, or they made dumb choices. And well, I guess in a democracy or in a free thinking country, you can think that you can have these opinions by yourself. But if everyone at the basis of like these moral imperative towards someone, these moral duties, which are almost fundamental, essential, sacred, you could say, then maybe we would step in the good direction because we would be almost like scared, as in like, oh well, if I'm not feeding this guy, I'm not an innocent. Like I'm technically a monster or something. Like I'm not human. I'm not part of the human society if I don't accomplish these moral duties. It's almost sacrificial. Well, maybe saying sacrificial or like virtuous is probably extreme because I don't consider that like feeding someone who's homeless or giving means to someone to feed themselves and they aren't able to feed themselves. I don't consider this as like extremely extremely like virtuous or anything. It's basic to me. But if you start to like extend on this vision of duty, it becomes really apparent that like some people might not want to do these things because if you consider that there is a duty to help people, you might also consider there is a duty to respect people and not do the basic minimum, like really respecting people. And so that's where the Palestinian question comes in, because there are all sorts of like schools of thought, like there are people, well, okay, but I sort of respect Palestinians, etc. Yeah, sure, let's feed them, etc. But if you start to digging in their beliefs, they might sort of believe in the Israeli doxa, like, yeah, but there's terrorist groups and stuff like that, and I don't think they should have a state. Maybe they don't have the right to a state, but yeah, we should help them. And respecting someone, respecting their human dignity entails the idea of like giving them food, giving them physical security, giving them psychology security. But perhaps um, in the law or in a societal way, respecting someone or respecting a country ensures them their freedom to fight, their freedom to choose for themselves, their freedom to have a state, their freedom to have a political government, stuff like that, you know? And so that's why I found this video interesting in a kind of sad and cynical way because he was basically talking about all these shenanigans going on about like the Palestinian question, like people trying to analyze the conflict from an historical point of view, sociological, saying, yeah, but these stuff happen. Maybe Israel is right in some way. Like they have the states, and Arabs have been terrorizing, and this and this and that. I say we try and respect Palestinian people from a humanist perspective and a philosophical perspective, giving them not the rights but the duties, giving them the means to accomplish the duties they have to accomplish, which is having a state, having a government, being able to vote, democracy, food, psychic well-being, all this stuff. These are duties, and we need to stop thinking rights as rights. We need to consider them as duties. They are obligatory. And yeah, yeah, that's it.